All right, baby. We're live. We just got to let it breathe for a couple of seconds while we bring on Facebook. We got a lot to talk about tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So happy to be with you. And we are good. Welcome in, everybody, to the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, how you feeling, dude? We're within a stone's throw. We're within spitting distance of the draft. Tomorrow night, Broncos don't have a first-round pick, but it's the draft.
Yeah, I still consider it 2 more days until we're released from this prison that is the offseason for now, Chad, because I can't remember a longer calendar from the end of the season until the draft. It felt like literally forever. So 2 more days we have to hang in there, 2 more days of speculation, 2 more days of rumors, and 2 more days of just conjecture until we know what's what for real.
Man, it really has felt like the longest run up to the draft ever. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but we don't need to get into it for now. But Zack, how are you feeling about the Broncos? Do you think they could maybe get into the action on Thursday night and trade up from pick 62? I mean, we can talk about how they've already made their first round pick. His name's Jalen Waddle and all that stuff, but waiting until pick 62 to officially become, part of the draft party might not be easy for George Payton and Sean Payton.
No, I think it's unlikely, and this is exactly what I was talking about. I just can't wait for the weekend to get here, Chad, and we don't have to speculate anymore about what the Broncos could do. We know what the Broncos did do. I had a thought earlier, though, as unlikely as I think it is. Aqib Talib did tease that big move, and I'm thinking to myself, if the Broncos consider themselves like 1 or 2 players away, and Jalen Waddle being one of them, and that's how they've operated this offseason, Chad, by running it back. They felt like their roster was Super Bowl bound. So maybe they're willing to sacrifice the capital to get that one more player, that blue chip guy in the first round. I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there at this point.
Maybe. I mean, the problem is you mortgage the future, and typically you don't see teams what it would cost the Broncos to get from pick 62 into the, let's say, back half even of round 1. That much of a king's ransom, Zack, you typically don't see teams relinquish unless they're moving to get a quarterback, and they don't need a quarterback. So as George Payton, look, we can try reading between the lines and the smoke signals of what was said during the Broncos draft press conference last week, Zack. But the one thing I feel pretty confident we can take at face value is, yeah, unlikely we'll trade up into the first round, but we're not ruling out a trade up in round 2.
If the Broncos didn't make that big splash and that blockbuster for Jalen Waddle, I would say it's possible, if not probable. But at this point, I'm with you. I think it's very unlikely. They might move up or down in the second round, the fourth round, or whatever. I don't see them coming up on day 1, though.
I don't either. So, but we'll still be doing the MHH live stream watch along throughout the first round, seeing how the dominoes fall. It's going to be fun. Papa Bear checking in. What's going on, big dog? Great to see you tonight. Thank you for the super chat. Saying good evening, Broncos country. Hashtag God bless the USA and Bo Nix. Yeah, right there with you, brother. We could use both those thoughts right now. So thank you very much. And we look forward to talking to you, Papa Bear, on Monday night. That's going to be a gas. The first superstar segment of 2026 is going to be fun. Thank you, brother. We got also Zach Sambam checking in.
Thank you, Sam.
And pardon me, guys. I think I'm getting a cold, so my voice is a little kind of scratchy and weird today. So bear with me. But Sambam, brother, thank you. We love you, Sam. Appreciate you being a Mount Rushmore supporter and a dear member. He says, evening, guys. Happy draft eve. I haven't looked at mock drafts much since we don't have a first-round pick. Yeah, it took a lot of joy out of things for Broncos fans. But just remember, you already made your first-round pick. But is there a specific player, Sam asked, or a position that's been mostly mocked to the Broncos in the second round? Go Broncos. Zach, the 3 that I've seen relentlessly cycled through is linebacker, tight end, and running back.
Yep.
So even today, your article, it was Fox Sports mocking Max Clare, the Ohio State tight end, to Denver at 62. And then Justin Mello of NFL Draft on SI mocked. I was a little bit surprised by this. Kyle Lewis, the Pittsburgh linebacker, to the Broncos at 62. Not because I don't think he's a good player, Zach, or that he would be a bad fit in Denver, but that's a little early for Kyle Lewis, in my opinion. But nevertheless, that's the answer.
Yeah, spot on. I've seen linebacker and tight end quite a bit. I've seen Claire. I've seen Eli Stowers. Another position as well is defensive line. Mel Kiper had the Broncos taking Caleb Banks from Florida in the second round. Both Chad and I would be very happy with that pick, albeit a little unlikely. But yeah, a defensive line, linebacker, tight end, and maybe running back, like Chad said. That's the most commonly linked to the Broncos.
The one we have not seen, it's kind of the sleeper option this year, guys, honestly, in terms of the mocks. We haven't seen many offensive linemen mock to Denver, but there are a couple in that zone I like, including Jennings Dunker from Iowa, who, according to the consensus big board, that's right in his zone, and he would fit well with Denver, although he's basically a right tackle at Iowa. When he gets to the NFL, he'll probably get a chance at tackle, but likely to end up inside. Nevertheless, he's just the kind of guy you want on your offensive line. So just something to monitor there. But I still have that gut level feeling, Zach, that whoever the pick is at 62, it's going to be kind of like this pick that Mello did. Maybe I shouldn't hate on it, Zach. I'm not hating on it, but maybe I shouldn't question it so much. You're not really you're thinking, yeah, Kyle Lewis could be a good fit for Denver, but you're not really thinking about him in round 2. Something like that, similar to Benito in 2022, similar to Mims 2023, and even RJ last year.
That's the problem with having, needs, but not really having any needs. What I wrote in the article, Chad, is the Broncos have pseudo needs. They're kind of needs, but more of wants to kind of top off the roster here and there. So they can go, like we've talked about for months now, 50 different directions, Sam, on draft night. But the most common I've seen and Chad have seen as well is linebacker and tight end. But offensive line, as much as Sean Payton's talked it up, I wouldn't rule it out. And I wouldn't be surprised if they take someone that no one, like Chad was saying, is seeing coming right now.
All right, guys, we have so much more to get to tonight, but first things first, guys, the NBA playoffs are finally here, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. The Denver Nuggets, they're in the dance. The series is tied 1-1. It's still looking good for the Nuggets. Now, if you're not on Underdog yet, good news. You're in luck, because new customers right now score $50 in bonus entries when you play your first $5.
Exactly. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether players will go higher or lower on stats like points and rebounds. Get your picks correct, and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. Plus, there's new promos dropping daily in the app.
Guys, it is so much fun. The opportunity to make picks, win money while you're watching basketball, playoff basketball at that. It's a slam dunk. So download the Underdog app today. Sign up with our code MHuddle to score that $50 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Again, that's promo code MHuddle. Don't forget, you got to download the app first. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next?
18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
All right, some shout outs to the folks in the chat, like our dear members, David Yunkin, saying, I'm just dropping in to say, have a great show. Everything right now is smoke. Well, very well could be. Pearl, also, good to see you. We got Keith in the house, a dear member. Good evening, and a big mile high salute right back at you. We got the Ronk checking in. What's going on, big dog? Great to see you, and appreciated that super chat support last night on the War Room. Really cool of you, Ronk. So thanks, pal. We got the Mile High Dutchie hanging out. What's going on? Look, Zach looks like he's got his Waddle jersey already in the profile pic. I mean, Albert comes correct. You guys know this. Shouts. We got Jordan Lewis in the house. What's up, buddy? Another dear member. We got Roy Osborne, Sue Gibson. This is awesome. Jetty says, it does feel like it's been long. Yawn. Look forward to getting started tomorrow. Well, that's the thing, is the draft starts, but the Broncos, Zach, I mean, they're really not getting in on the action till Friday. And even then, Zach, you're 30 picks, into round 2 when the Broncos go on the clock.
And now watch him move out of the second round or move down in the second round and take that much longer for the fan base to see the Broncos pick. I don't know. It's certainly a possibility, but yeah, Jetty, we're all collectively drained, and not from excitement for the most part, except for Jalen Waddle. We're tired of waiting. We're sick of being sick and tired, you know?
Oh, man, they better not do that. They better not trade back, man. I'm going to be so pissed. Not really, but like it would add up, right? It would make sense for this offseason. Like, it just has felt like the ultimate troll. Sean Payton just laughing. Shannon Mills jumping in from the top row.
Shannon.
Talk about Mount Rushmore, superstars, dear members. Right here she is. Shannon Mills says, good evening, Chad, Zach, Scott, and the MHH fam. Wish we were drafting tomorrow night, and the anticipation is killing me. Go Broncos. I know, but just look at it like this, Shannon. Pardon me. They've already made their pick.
Exactly. And that first round pick is a proven wide receiver 1 in Jalen Waddle, a guy who's going to be so explosive and productive for your franchise quarterback in Bo Nix. That franchise quarterback, by the way, coming back ahead of schedule in his recovery. So yeah, it's been a long offseason. The anticipation sucks, but the Broncos are still in a mighty fine position. Thank you so much, Shannon, for your support.
I thought it was cool. Peyton Manning, what is that? The Night of Legends, or what is it tonight? Hold on. I don't want to screw it up. I should have had that name already memorized. The Night of Champions. Sorry, Night of Champions, where the Super Bowl 50 squad, Zach, they're in town and doing some reminiscing, let's say. But Peyton Manning, he said the acquisition of Jalen Waddle was what a move. He's excited, obviously, for what he can bring to the offense for Bo Nix.
As well he should be, as well as we all are in Broncos country. That was the biggest move they had to make, was getting Bo Nix a shiny new weapon, a new wide receiver 1. And again, it's felt like a year ago, Chad, because it was the only move they made, but you cannot overstate the importance enough. It was an A+ move by the Broncos.
Peyton Manning also talked about, this is interesting, he kind of held court a little bit before taking the stage and all the stuff that's going to happen on the stage. But he talked about how he thinks the Broncos this year are going to be, quote, even better than they were last year. He's really excited to see, exactly just like we all are, what the Broncos end up doing in the draft. But he feels like Bo Nix, the Broncos, Sean Payton has, quote unquote, got it figured out, and the Broncos are going to be even better, which is pretty cool to think, because Peyton Manning isn't exactly, Zach, the type of guy to fall prey to hyperbole. Like, if he actually offers the praise or says something slightly sensational, there's a reason for it.
I don't hear the same things coming out about the Colts out of Peyton Manning's mouth, so you can tell where his allegiance lies. I love how he talks so openly about the Broncos, how involved he is still with the community and the team. And you're talking about a franchise, Chad, that was a quarterback injury, a fluke one at that, away from likely making, if not winning, there's still a chance they would have won that game, the Super Bowl. So their optimism that Peyton Manning has, that fans have in the fan base, is very valid to me, very justified.
Yeah, like even tonight, he's still talking about the Broncos in the possessive. He's like, what we're going to do in the draft, you know. And it just warms your heart to see that, Peyton Manning, which, man, again, how the Colts screwed that up, still I scratch my head. It's like, you should have waited one more year. It would have been okay. Oh, but we got Andrew Luck. And what did it avail you? Nothing. He retired on you early, and you still lost Peyton Manning, who turned in 3 straight Pro Bowl years, 2 of which were All-Pro. In fact, I think 3 were All-Pro. All 3 were Pro Bowl and All-Pro. Another MVP, Zach, and a ring. So, and then of course, you fired the sheriff. So yeah, that's why, Zach, when he gets called to go do the alumni stuff for that Super Bowl, the 2006 Super Bowl, I forget what number that was, Super Bowl, whatever, when he won it with the Colts, he goes and he obliges, but he still lives in Denver, and it's pretty clear to see where his allegiances lie.
I'll never be able to explain, just like you, why the Colts did what they did and kicked a future Hall of Famer, the face of the franchise, to the curb at, like yesterday's trash. But I will always be thankful that they did, because if they didn't, we wouldn't have the story of Peyton Manning in Denver.
No doubt. Shannon, we don't have to wait too much longer, but we'll see you tomorrow night in the draft stream. It's going to be fun. Zach, we got, I wanted to grab this from our dear buddy Glenn down under saying, good morning, Chad, Zach, Deacon Scott. For him, it's already Thursday. So wrap your brain around that. All right. He's a time bandit. He says, I'm so excited for the draft tomorrow morning, my time. I can't see us trading into round one. Trading up to 45 picks 45 through 50 on day 2 is more likely. George Payton owns the draft. We are a few additions schematically from a full Super Bowl squad depth. MHH for life, state of being. Yeah, dude. That was the zone that George Payton himself, Zach, mentioned during the draft presser last week. You know, we really feel special about the 45 to picks 45 to 75, and they're sitting kind of right in the middle currently at 62. So if they do trade up, I could see them right there with you, Glenn, going as high as 45. Question is, what would it cost them? Would it be worth that in a draft where you don't have a first or a third?
Part of me wonders, and you'll have to forgive me, I'm just speculating, if the Broncos were a little burned by Trey Henderson last season going in the second round well before the Broncos pick, and they never got a chance to draft him, and that would explain why they overdrafted RJ Harvey where they did. I don't know. Maybe they don't make that mistake twice, Glenn. If they like someone in that range, they'll move up and surrender some capital. They have multiple picks in other rounds. They have future picks. They could even throw in a player, as unlikely as that I think is going to be, but don't underestimate the Broncos. I don't see it in the first round, but the second round, they could be active.
Albert says, get some Fisherman's Friend lozenges. I just Googled it. I'll check them out, dude. I'll check them out. For guys who use their voices a lot, it might be good to have some of those on hand. I'll check it out. Thank you, brother. All right. That was kind of a weird aside, but let's grab Shiloh, who says a 6'1", 220-pound linebacker just doesn't seem right to me. Might as well have Hufanga, Skinner, and Jones instead. So I think he's referencing Kyle Pitts, Kyle Lewis as the Pittsburgh linebacker in the NFL draft on SI mock. I agree. I like him. I do like him. And I could see Lewis still thriving in Denver as an inside linebacker, by the way, but because of he is the best coverage linebacker in this draft. So keep that in mind. But because of the size drawbacks, you can't take him in round 2 if you're going to play him at linebacker, because he might be specialized for a good chunk of his early career, Zach.
Well, some important context about that mock draft. Mello, it was like to throw the NFL draft into chaos or something like that. It was designed, Chad, to give a more unrealistic pick or whatever, something that was off the wall, and that's where he ended up with Mr. Kyle there. But yeah, I don't know where they're going to go, Shiloh. Linebacker is definitely on the board. We all have our favorites. If Jacob Rodriguez is there, I would very much like that. If Golday is there, I wouldn't mind. Trotter and Anthony Hill, I wouldn't mind. But they're going to have their options. I don't think they're going to have to reach as Mello said they would, Chad.
I mean, I guess it wouldn't be as big of a reach as I was thinking. For what it's worth, on the consensus mock draft big board, Kyle Lewis is rated the 74th overall, which in comparison, Zach, to some of the reaches the Broncos have been accused of making in recent drafts, like RJ Harvey last year, like Pat Bryant last year. Pat Bryant, Zach, I mean, let's look at it real quick. 2025. And again, it doesn't matter what the consensus outside the building is. What matters is how the team views it and what their board is. That's the ultimate deciding factor here. But as a wide receiver last year, Zach, Pat Bryant was pick one, average position 162, and the Broncos drafted him in the 3rd round. So that's a full 2 rounds basically ahead of where the outside the building speculation had him going. So the point being, if the Broncos took Lewis at 62 and he's rated 75, that would be only a modest reach. But I missed that nuance about Mello's draft, that it's the mock, that it was supposed to kind of throw things off. So left field kind of picks.
Yeah, and it's also important to note, as always, who the Broncos would be passing up to take Lewis in that spot, Chad. It could be a better tight end. It could be a better defensive lineman. That's where it becomes so tough speculating, and that's why I've been hedging the last couple months. I do apologize on here, but without really knowing the real-time situation, it's so difficult to discern which way the Broncos are going to go.
No doubt. Shiloh, good insight though, brother. He says also, maybe I'm too used to the early 2000s linebackers where 240 pounds was the minimum. 230 is the common in the modern league, but even that worries me a tad. Yeah. Well, again, I think if the Broncos did bring in Kyle Lewis, there would be a plan for him. And look, I mean, they moved Drew Sanders. They're moving Drew Sanders to outside linebacker, like two ships in the night, Zach. You got Jonah Ellis going one way and Drew Sanders going the other. But as excited as they are about Jonah Ellis moving to inside linebacker and his upside there, and Nick Bonito calling him the most versatile player in the NFL, he's still completely unproven and untested at that position in Division I or pro football. And so you can't count on it being a home run if you're the Broncos. They will draft a linebacker. Like, I don't necessarily think, Zach, it's going to be in round 2, but the 3 positions I'm confident that they will draft this year are defensive line, running back, and linebacker. Not necessarily in that order, but if they're going to go premium position with that first pick in the second round, it's probably going to be defensive line or offensive tackle.
But again, to me, like, this mystery and the frustration of not knowing and not having a clear idea, that's a good problem to have. That means that your roster is basically set and forget, and you're just looking to supplement it in certain spots. And that's why the Broncos are legitimate Super Bowl contenders as of right now, even before the draft.
I like this, Chase. We are one day away from being one day away. It's like when I try to explain to my toddler son the concept of time. He understands today. He understands what happened this morning, breakfast, lunch, dinner, all bedtime. He gets all that. But when you try to explain to him beyond today, tomorrow, he understands. That's what happens after I go to sleep tonight. That's tomorrow. I get that. But when I've had to try to explain and help him understand, I have to say, and this is the one thing I've found that has worked. I say, not tomorrow, but tomorrow's tomorrow. And he goes, okay, yeah. And it clicks. Reminds me, Zach, we're one day away from being one day away.
Yeah. Thank God for that. Thank God for that, Chase.
But look, Todd says, hey, you watch the first round anyway. I mean, look, because the Broncos might make a blockbuster trade, as has been suggested by Talib. It's possible. It's extremely unlikely. But honestly, Zach, that's not why I'm going to be watching the first round anyway. I'm going to be watching the first round of the draft because I'm a sick maniac about football. And we've come to know all these prospects. We want to see where they land and analyze the implications in real time as they're landing. It's going to be fun.
And there's been nothing, there's been no football game for 2 months. There's been no real major news for quite a while. It's still the NFL. It's still a 10-pole event. I don't think anything's going to happen tomorrow, but it's always worth checking in for.
I mean, Zach, I think back to 2022 and 2023 when we knew there was no first round pick. Our first round live streams were huge, dude. I mean, they would do 15, 20,000 views night of. Broncos fans can't get enough. And I think a lot of that, not a lot of it, some of that excitement, it's not that it's gone, it's that it's kind of been refunneled for fans. Back then it was, I just got to know how the heck we're going to get better. Like, how are we going to improve? Now it's more about, everyone's comfortable. The team's back in the saddle, so to speak. So you get a lot more casual viewership instead of the dedicated locked in. And again, I'm not talking about you guys. You guys are the dedicated sick maniacs just like us. I'm talking about people like, my dad or my brother and stuff like that don't necessarily follow it every day like we do. But when things were bad, they followed it a lot more closely, Zach, during the offseason. It's just kind of the difference.
Yeah, because I feel like the draft was one of the few things Broncos fans had to look forward to that could go, possibly right. And now the team is a legitimate contender and the draft's a little less important, especially when you make a big acquisition like Jalen Waddle. I totally get it.
Sam M says Peyton basically loves the Broncos because he knows the Colts and Daniel Jones are trash. I got to tell you, dude, Zach and I were there in 2019 at the Combine. So that was the year Drew Lock was coming out, Daniel Jones. Jones went, what was it, Zach, 6th overall. Drew Lock didn't go till round 2. And I'm telling you right now, I've covered a few combines, and you see some players, some prospects, when they get up to the podium, they're extremely uncomfortable, and others get up there like this is where I belong, and they're very casual and relaxed. Like Dalton Reisner, Zach, was a good example of a guy who just got up to the podium and it's like a fish to water, just dominated the podium. Drew Lock, pretty similar. He was up there, nothing new to him, very casual, easygoing, charismatic. Daniel Jones looked like he wanted to be anywhere in the world, but at that podium. And I was standing, 3 feet from him, listening to him, asking a question, whatever. My point here is then he goes to the New York Giants. He gets drafted, and it's basically what I expected him to be, just not worth the number 6 overall pick. Zach, I got to give him his credit now after what he did in Indy. Granted that he didn't get to finish the season, so there is that element of how much can you trust it, but he changed my mind a lot last year. Like I kind of have rethought Daniel Jones. That team was a juggernaut, dude, before he got hurt.
Yeah, the Broncos should have still beat them. That leverage call was total horse, you know what, Chad. Listen,
Agreed.
Sam Darnold impressed me. That was a legitimate comeback story. He won the freaking Super Bowl. Daniel Jones, even before he got injured, you can tell the play was tapering off. You can tell the league was catching up to him, and it was lightning in a bottle. And maybe it's my own bias. I've never been a big DJ fan, and I don't think the Colts are going anywhere with him at the helm.
Well, we'll find out. He's back in Indy. And we'll see if the Colts are able to duplicate what they did to start last season, because they were a force to be reckoned with. But anyway, back to the chat. We got Tucson Phil checking in. What's up, big dog? Saying good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. Do you think we pick up a quarterback in the draft or later as a college free agent? Buckham, MHH for life, Broncos for life. Zach, what do you think?
I think they pick, even if they do it all, I think they pick one up as an undrafted free agent. I don't think they'll devote a draft pick to a quarterback. And I'm basing that on Sean Payton's comments, Chad. One specific was Sam Ehlinger and Jarrett Stidham. Apparently, they're going to have some sort of competition to be the backup behind Bo Nix. He didn't put it in stone. I forget when he said it. It might have been the owners' meetings or the combine, whatever. But he didn't put it in stone that Jarrett Stidham was backing it up. He really likes Sam Ehlinger, who the Broncos brought back. They have 3. I'm sure he'd like a project, but you don't have to devote a draft pick to that project. I think he'll come, if he comes, as an undrafted free agent.
I err on that side of things too, but there are a few names that are interesting. Eric had a good breakdown in the Finding Broncos series at milehighhuddle.com. And this was Broncos could get creative with these 5 quarterback draft targets. And these are all later round / potentially undrafted guys. But I'm just going to throw a few names out there as developmental options to watch. One of them is Arkansas's Taylon Green, who is just a sick, phenomenal athlete that if he ever figures out how to be a polished quarterback, he'll be a force to be reckoned with, but he's still quite raw. And he's a guy that wouldn't shock me, Zach, if they approach him at the NFL level to switch positions. But also another name Eric mentioned is Sawyer Robertson of Baylor. All right. Then he also mentioned Cade Klubnik of Clemson, Cole Payton of North Dakota State, and then last but not least, Illinois' Luke Altmaier. All these guys have grades anywhere from round. I think the highest on this was the Arkansas kid as a round 5. Yeah, round 5. So I don't think the Broncos in a draft, Zach, where they're missing their first, they're missing their third. They've got a second, 2 fourths, a fifth, no sixth, and 3 sevenths. They don't need to draft a quarterback. There'll be some interesting guys that fall out of the draft that they can convince to come be part of this really special, great room and see what they can do.
There's other holes they can plug or whatever. I wouldn't call them needs necessarily, but there's other positions the Broncos could allocate that capital to and not have to blow it on a quarterback.
Yeah, but some of those quarterbacks I just mentioned, I mean, about half of them were at the Senior Bowl, and each one of them had their moments where you could see the flash or whatever, like Luke Altmaier, really good running an offense, but not much of an arm, good accuracy, the Illinois kid. But if the Broncos brought him in, Zach, as a college free agent, he'll get drafted, in my opinion. But if they did bring him in as a college free agent, or if they drafted him, he would have that experience with Pat Bryant, at least. That was Pat Bryant's college quarterback. And then, look, the North Dakota State kid, Cole Payton. Do we need more Paytons in Denver? No. that would just be another thing to confuse the conversation, just be another pain in the ass, basically. But he's a guy that everyone kind of has earmarked as the next Taysom Hill, the guy who's maybe brought in to be a quarterback, emergency quarterback, but is kind of moved in to be more of a tight end / move around the offense weapon because he's so athletic and tough and big.
That's a good shout. Yeah. If they draft a quarterback, it might not be to play quarterback exclusively. He could be looking for the next Taysom Hill. That's a really good shout. Although, again, if they're going to do that, do it in the 7th round. Don't waste a higher draft pick on a type of player like that.
But, dude, honestly, Scott will probably scoff when I say this, but the quarterback that jumped out to me the most at the Senior Bowl was the little guy, Diego Pavia, who probably won't get drafted. And so if he does not get drafted, the Broncos should bring him in and let him compete and see what's what, because he's got some it factor. I'll just put it that way. Little guy, but he's got some it factor to him. Phil, thanks, buddy. Great to see you. Where are we at time-wise? We're doing okay. Shannon jumps in to say, Eric brought up an interesting point today. Eric, by the way, for the members, in case you've been missing it, he's been doing the Trickle Zone for members only at the noon hour, except for Tuesdays, because that's Kelberman's Corner. So he's trying to figure out what rhythm exactly he's going to stick to for after the draft, but he's doing them more often right now because it's like the last run up to the draft. But he had one today. Shannon says, Eric brought up an interesting point about the Seahawks drafting a running back and that causing a bunch of running backs to go quickly in the second. That had me thinking, well, we'll see. I mean, Zach, this running back class is top heavy and it's shallow. So once you get past the following names, all right, Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, Mike Washington Jr., Jonah Coleman, and then maybe Emmett Johnson, it goes off a cliff. So I think any team that really feels like it needs a running back in this draft, some of these guys that I just mentioned, like even Jonah Coleman, who in a normal draft, he's probably a 4th round pick. They could go way earlier.
You're maybe a little more generous than I am. I was going to say it really falls off after Jonah Coleman. There's a big tier differential after Coleman. I would hope if the Broncos are targeting a running back, if they do want one, that they just have conviction enough to go get one of the players, Coleman or better.
Todd says, here's to hoping, responding to Sue, who says, one thing we know for sure, Sue says, is that Mendoza to the Raiders. And Todd says, here's to hoping Mendoza is an epic bust pick. So Mendoza, aside from being the projected number 1 overall pick, Zach, he's made some news in that he's not planning on going to the draft. Number 1 overall pick, easy. Like everyone called it 3 months ago, Zach, and yet he's not going to the draft. Peyton Manning said tonight that the NFL asked him to call Mendoza and try and persuade him to change his tune and come to the draft, which he did. He obliged them, but didn't change any minds at Mendoza HQ.
I was going to say that the NFL should mandate that top 5 picks, or at least the projected number 1 overall pick, is at the draft and shaking hands with the commissioner and making a big scene. It's just good PR for the NFL. And it's bad PR when that player is 1,000 miles away, hundreds of miles away, doing his own thing. I don't know. I feel like he should be there and the NFL should make him be there. But that's, I guess, a whole other story, whole other subject.
And I think it's just disrespectful, not to the league so much, but think of how many prospects would kill to have gotten the invite to be at the draft.
True.
And you're just saying, it's one thing if you're Bo Nix and you go into that draft, your reps are telling you, we don't know if you're going day 1 or day 2. We don't know. So he's like, I'm going to stay home. That's understandable, Zach. But when you are Trevor Lawrence, you're Peyton Manning, you're Andrew Luck, you're Mendoza, you're guaranteed for months to be the number 1 overall pick. What are you really trying to say? He would probably stand up and say, I just want to celebrate this very special moment with my family. Okay, sure.
There.
Bring him to the freaking show, dude. So what are you actually trying to say? And what you're actually trying to say is, I'm different. I can't be dictated to. I'm a punk rocker. I rage against the machine. And in the meantime, it's not really great for the NFL. And I don't think it's going to earn him a lot of love amongst his fellow 2026 classmates.
That's exactly what it is or what it has to be. And I'll simplify it even more. He goes, I'm the number 1 overall draft pick, and my SH, you know what, does not stink. I guess that's the mindset he has, Chad, because like you mentioned, if he wants to be with family and celebrate privately, they accommodate everyone. They have green rooms. They have the full luxurious travel accommodations taken care of. He can be with his family and still, like, I don't know, show more respect or courtesy to the NFL and to the players that were left off the invite list, like you mentioned, so he could be there. It's kind of ridiculous to me.
Yeah, it doesn't pass the smell test. And I don't want to make more of it than it is. But if Peyton Manning calls me on behalf, if I, all right, you know what? Maybe I need to rethink this. And if I'm going to pull a power play, I'm going to say to the NFL, because I think Peyton Manning, what did he say? That in his day, so 98, he could bring 3 people. Well, I bet you could get around those little, the fine print, so to speak. If you're Mendoza and the league really wants you at the draft, you could probably bring whoever you want. But anyway, Glenn, we need a big sideline to sideline coverage linebacker. It has to be Hill Jr., Anthony Hill, Texas. If he slides, or Golday, if it's second or third. This is why Kyle Lewis and Rodriguez from Texas Tech are out for me. Interesting. Neither one of those guys are out for me. Like, Broncos just need linebacker depth right now. They're solid. Pardon me, my voice, man. It's weird tonight, but they're solid at the top. But Sternad's been injured before. Let's not forget, Zach, he missed his entire rookie year with a wrist. Singleton missed the majority of 2024 with an ACL. Both of them are going to be on the wrong side of 30 by the time you get to the season. I mean, Singleton's already 32. I'm saying Sternad's going to be turning 30 this summer. So, like, you need depth. You need guys who can do a little bit of everything as best you can. So for me, Zach, these are all names that are definitely on the board for conversation. I'm not turning my nose up at Anthony Hill, Rodriguez, Golday, Trotter, Lewis. I'm with you in the sense only, Glenn, that round 2 might be a little rich, but I still think he could come in. He's a playmaker, dude. He can cover. So if you drafted a guy like Lewis, Zach, he comes in, and once he gets the hang of things and he kind of gets through the rookie period, the summer, early season, you start rotating him in on third down as your coverage linebacker and see if you can reap some rewards.
Man, I'm still thinking about that Mendoza thing. It has me pissed off right now, Chad, because if I'm Peyton Manning, really quick.
Go ahead.
Really quick. If I'm Peyton Manning, I'm thinking to myself, I shouldn't have to even be calling this kid right now. The fact that I have to pick up a phone is a red flag, but that's okay. I'm done now. I feel better. Glenn, we all have our opinions. They're definitely subjective. They're like, what's, but Jacob Rodriguez is one of my, if not my favorite player in this draft. That's semi-realistic for the Broncos. I would love Anthony Hill as well. I could talk myself into Golday, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater when you make such a declarative statement like this. That's my opinion.
We got Storm Blessed jumping in saying, feel like it's hard to get a gauge on this year's draft. They put out so much smoke and coach speak, it's hard to pinpoint what we think they will do. Well, I mean, that's how it is every year, honestly. Especially this front office. I mean, again, Zach and I were surprised we were together when they drafted Benito. We're like, really? Marvin Mims was kind of like, didn't see that coming, at least not that at that point. But I was reminded today, Zach, doing some research on a different article, Broncos traded up to get Marvin Mims in round 2, 2023. 2024, we all saw quarterback coming. We knew that was coming. By that point, if you were following the MHH podcast, you were in on Bo Nix for months. But by process of elimination, by the time he was selected, Zach, even at just number 12 overall, 5 quarterbacks had already gone before him. Right. So it was pretty obvious that by the time the Broncos went on the clock, unless they were really going to defy expectations and risk their 2024 season, they were probably taking Bo Nix. That one was pretty easy, slam dunk. But overall, Zach, I got to say, and even last year, again, didn't see RJ Harvey in the second round. I could have seen RJ Harvey in the 4th round, but he was their 2nd round pick. Didn't see Pat Bryant as the 3rd round pick. Q Robinson was a surprise to me. Really, the only guy last year who was, Jahdae Barron was a surprise. The only guy who was not a surprise to me where they took him last year, with Savion Jones.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And Sam, it was Storm, it was so much easier back in the day in the John Elway regime because there were so many leaks that came out. We knew 2 weeks before the draft who they take with their top picks or whatever. Then George Payton got hired and the leaks slowly started to dissipate. And then Sean Payton gets hired and they've stopped completely. Like you said, they put out so much disinformation, smoke screens. They throw you off the trail. It's lying season. And Sean Payton relishes doing that as a head coach. And also, they traded away their first-round pick, and they have no glaring needs. We talk about 2024 a lot. Bo Nix, that was obvious. 2023, when they traded up for Marvin Mims, they needed a playmaker. That was obvious. Genuinely, for the first time in about a decade, Chad, I have no clue where they're going to go with their top pick.
The very first face that was etched on the MHH Superstar Mount Rushmore is in the house right now. Zeus McPeak. What's going on, big dog? Celebrating 5 months of membership, but he's been a member of the inner circle for going on 7 years now, and maybe even longer, because pretty sure he followed the 24/7 streams on Facebook, if memory serves, back in the day. So it's really good to see you, Zeus. Much love and respect, big dog. Hope you are doing well. He says, guys, I'm excited for the draft. Amen, brother. It's been a really dry offseason. The driest offseason in memory. Covering the Denver Broncos, not just covering, but as a fan, dating back to the I mean, I was a fan of the 80s, of course, but like when you start really paying attention, my age, I would say late 90s is when I was like locked in on everything that was going down, Zach. This was a dry offseason, maybe the driest. And the only thing we have is the trade for Jalen Waddle. It's been a lot of nothing for weeks and months now. So we're right there with you, Zeus. Let's go draft.
In about 5 years, this Broncos offseason is going to be a trivia question in some Colorado bar. What was the only free agent outside player the Broncos signed in the 2026 offseason? Tyson Anderson. Ding, ding, ding. It's been extremely weird, extremely dry, as Chad said, extremely extended, it's felt like. I feel like they should push the draft up or free agency back, one of the two, whatever. But we're almost there, 2 days away, and I cannot wait.
I can't either, man.
2 days till the Broncos pick anyway. I know the draft's tomorrow.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just reading a couple things here. Okay. That's weird. I don't know what that's about. Let me see here. Yeah. I don't know. Let's not feed the troll, guys. Let's not feed the troll. Whatever homeboy is tripping on, let's try not to feed him, or else it just keeps happening. Then we got to block him. We don't want that. Jordan though says, I think Rodriguez, Hill, and CJ Allen are underrated, and I don't know about Allen and Rodriguez, right. Jordan. Their draft stock seems to be pretty good overall. And honestly, so is Hill's. These are all guys who will not be on the board beyond round 2. So, maybe Allen, Zach, by the way, getting a lot of late round 1 action in recent mocks. Rodriguez is pretty widely viewed as an early second round pick, and the same for Hill. So, I don't know. Those are 3 linebackers, Jordan. I'll tell you this, brother, that I'd love to see in Denver.
Yeah, I don't think any of them are underrated or overrated. I think they're rated. I think they're properly rated as some of the best linebackers in this draft class, and I would gladly take either of the 3 on the Broncos.
All right. Hey, Scott, while we're live here from like 6:45-ish up until the present, there might be some bad faith actors that might need to either be put in timeout or bounced.
Chargers fan?
But it's multiple accounts that I'm seeing, so it could be some kind of a. It's been a while since we've had concerted efforts to come at us on a live stream, but definitely would not be the first time.
We'll shut it down hard.
Yeah. All right, let me see where we're at here, Zach. Chase says it's a deeper inside linebacker class. Agreed. And Denver's looking for a development guy. I don't agree that it has to be round 2. I don't either. I don't think it has to be. But, I mean, once you get past, Zach, Josiah Trotter, then it gets there's a few guys left, but Kyle Lewis is an option. Bryce Betcher is an option. There are some Harold Perkins, lesser guy, but Jimmy Rolder. Jack Kelly's another one that is like, oh, 7th round, let's take a flyer on him, see what he can do, because he's such a smart guy. Owen Heineke, possibly some other guys. But the cream of the crop is going to be that first 3 rounds, and the Broncos don't have a 3rd round pick. So if they want to get one of those guys and really increase their odds, it does. 2nd round is going to be their best chance to do it, but they could wait, Zach, and like I've done in some of my mocks, and target guys like Bryce Betcher in the 4th round.
Well, Chase, maybe I missed some sort of important context here. Maybe you're responding to something in the chat, but I don't know who said it has to be in round 2. I didn't make that argument. I said the Broncos can go anywhere and they shouldn't pigeonhole themselves into any particular pick. Although, again, if someone like Rodriguez falls to you and he's fairly, highly rated on your board, you probably have to think long and hard about taking him. But I agree. It doesn't have to be in round 2, although to me, the higher the better for that position.
Amen, Kelly. Trolls can't bring us down this year. Broncos are going to be damn good, and we can say it with our chest this year. Yeah, in case you missed it early in the show, Peyton Manning tonight saying Sean Payton's got it figured out, quote unquote, and that the Broncos are going to be even better this year, quote unquote, and that Bo Nix is going to be a man on a mission. So we're all looking forward, Zach, to seeing how this draft helps realize all that stuff.
Bo's comeback story here is going to be really, really intriguing and fascinating to watch. Not just the injury, but, he's a father now, Chad. I'm sure he's in a different part of his life as a man. He has a lot of recollecting to do coming off of that ankle injury, and he's going to be motivated and fired up to get the Broncos back to where they were and beyond in 2026. Can't wait for it.
Okay, let me find that one. Where is he then, Scott? I don't see it. Man, the chat's popping tonight. Oh, okay. Well, Stu, thank you for the stars, big dog. Appreciate you, brother. Much love and respect. I saw a question earlier, Zach, but there he is, Zeus McPeak on Facebook. I saw one from Todd, but the chat jumped and I missed it, so I'm going to grab this one from another dear member, Jay the Reactor. Thank you for being a member, Jay. Appreciate you, big dog. Are there any safeties that are 2nd round worthy, Zach? Well, yes, there are. And that is a very sleeper need that we cannot look past this season, because even though, Zach, the Broncos brought in, as you mentioned, to much fanfare, Tyson Anderson in free agency, they lost their proven number 3 safety. And I thought it was interesting. PJ Locke, by the way, very recently did an interview with someone in Cowboys. I think it was Cowboys media. Either way, just did a recent interview. And he explained some of the process that went into him deciding. He had an offer to return to Denver, and then he had an offer in Dallas. Denver could not promise him more than being the 3rd safety. Cowboys could promise him more as far as role. So he took that role. He was heartbroken. It bummed him out because he wanted to stick with his guys, but at the same time, he wanted a chance to play more like he did down the stretch. So anyway, PJ Locke, though, gone, Zach, makes that 3rd spot a little questionable right now. And look, their first thought is going to be to give Devin Key a bigger bite at the apple and try and reward him, Zach, because he's proven to be such a playmaker on special teams. But he's played some defense for Denver before, a little bit, spot duty here and there since becoming a Bronco. Nothing to really write home about. So they got to be smart and probably bring in a guy, especially knowing, Zach, that Brandon Jones is in a contract year. So to answer the question, round 2, there's one guy in particular I really like as a sleeper option for Denver, and that's LSU's AJ Halsey. Don't sleep on that kid.
You can't rule it out, Jay. Every position except for quarterback should be on the board for the Broncos, realistically. I don't know, though, that they should be reaching for a safety in round 2. You bring up a good point, Chad, and losing P.J. Locke. Maybe Devon Key shakes out. He's a special teamer. Tyson Anderson, he's a special teamer. But you still have 2 starters in Brandon Jones, who's coming back from injury in a contract year, so he should be motivated. And, of course, Hufanga. I don't know, though, that you have to spend your lone pick in the first 3 rounds on a player that's going to be a backup predominantly in year 1. I know they did that with Jahdae Barron, but those are kind of apples and oranges. So there are prospects, Jay, and it's subjective as to who you like better. I just don't know the Broncos, if they have a choice, should go with the safety in round 2.
Well, I agree with you. We also have to remember what George Payton himself admitted to last week during his Zoom presser alongside Sean Payton, and that is, look, man, it's going to be hard for anyone we draft this year to see any playing time because our roster is so deep. So regardless of what position they draft, they're going to start out, odds are, in a backup role. The other name to keep in mind, it would be a little bit of a reach in round 2, but Bud Clark from TCU, if the Broncos were to fall in love with him, because remember, this is what happens. Pat Bryant was rated as a 5th-round pick. Broncos loved him. They took him in the 3rd. So if the Broncos love this guy, Bud Clark, and he might be like a 3rd-round guy, but they don't have a 3, and they don't think he'll be there in round 4, okay, we'll take him at 62. I could see it happening, but the number one name that jumps out to me, just to answer the question, as a sleeper safety round 2, Jay, is AJ Halsey. So keep that in mind. Zach, I can't find the exact comment, but for Todd, his question was, what would be a surprise? What would surprise you if the Broncos, aside from quarterback, let's remove that. If they, let's just say position, what would surprise you in round 2?
Well, number one, I disagree a little bit. If they drafted Caleb Banks, for example, Chad, I mean, they don't really have a surefire starter to replace JFM. Savion Jones maybe could be it. Wuzurike maybe could be it. If you draft Caleb Banks, you're going to probably play him a lot in year 1. Also, if Jadarian Price or Washington or whoever falls to you, they're going to get on the field. It would be a surprise if they drafted a receiver, in my opinion, because you brought in Jalen Waddle. You have already more receivers than you know what to do with. Again, nothing should be ruled out, but that would qualify as a surprise for me.
Well said. I agree 100%. At the same time, wouldn't surprise me if they draft a receiver at some point in this draft just to keep the talent, the cost-controlled talent flowing. And yet, Zach, as I'm writing in this article that's going to drop after the podcast, they kind of have a logjam. This speaks to what you just said. Like, I would be surprised if they took a receiver in round 2. Why? Well, they just brought in Jalen Waddle, which really created a logjam. Behind him, you got Troy Franklin, you got Pat Bryant, you got Marvin Mims Jr., and then, little Jordan Humphrey was re-signed, etc. One of those guys, Zach, could be traded during the draft. Would not shock me. And if I were to pick one, like off the bat, you go, oh, well, which guy's on an expiring contract? Well, that'd be Marvin Mims. Yeah. But because of all the value he brings to the table as a returner, and then also, Zach, just his penchant for the clutch gene, I don't think the Broncos, you'd really have to blow Denver away with an offer on Mims, in my opinion. Like, it would have to be a true Vito Corleone offer that cannot be refused type of offer. Troy Franklin, though, Zach, I think could be pried off of Denver's hands a little bit easier, and that would create some room, some breathing room for Marvin Mims to have a greater role, for Pat Bryant to have a greater role. You think, well, what would Troy Franklin be worth? And would teams even be that interested? Let's not forget that Romeo Doubs, Zach, had almost the exact same statistical output last season as Troy Franklin, and he got a massive contract from the New England Patriots. So the demand for wide receiver is there. He did co-lead the team in touchdowns last season, receiving touchdowns. Troy Franklin had 6. So I could see some teams calling up and at least checking. Keep an eye on that.
See, the paradox is, though, Marvin Mims is the receiver you want to keep the most, but he's also the receiver that would fetch the most value in a trade. Someone's asking if they can get a 3rd for Troy Franklin. That's not going to happen. You're not going to get more than what you drafted him for. You'd be lucky to get a 5th for Troy Franklin. He's had more drops, I think, than surefire game-breaking plays in the NFL. You can make an argument. I mean, I saw someone mentioned outside linebacker would be a surprise. I can make the argument why the Broncos would draft an outside linebacker in round 2. Someone mentioned a cornerback would be a surprise. I can make that argument as well. It's tough to make the argument for wide receiver if you're not trading one of the aforementioned already.
Well said. Well said. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. The other names to watch as far as potential trade pieces, because remember, the Broncos, just in recent history, Zach, have made trades involving veteran players during the draft. Yep. It's just that they've been incoming trades. So they brought in John Franklin Myers during the draft. They brought in Zach Wilson during the draft. I was racking my brain today trying to think, can you remember since George Payton has been the GM, the Broncos trading a player away during the draft? I can't.
No.
So that goes to show you that if they're going to be a trade during the draft, it probably is a player coming in more so than one going out. But keep an eye on Riley Moss. I still think the Broncos would be remiss to trade either Moss or McMillan at any point during this offseason, because when you look at the schedule and you see the quality of quarterbacks that the Broncos have to face this year, don't chance it. Just hold on to him. Let Riley Moss play out his deal, figure out what's what. You know, you could even look at Riley Moss, Zach. We'll see what the schedule is after the draft. It'll come out in May. But, you know, hey, maybe he's a candidate for an in-season extension. He might not be a guy that is a slam dunk July extension guy like Patrick Surtain or Zach Allen or Cortland Sutton, but maybe he's an in-season guy. Like, the Broncos do love Riley Moss. There's a lot of teams out there, Zach, that he would have fallen out of favor very quickly with the amount of trouble he got into at times with the penalties and some of the situations that put the team in. It would have been easy to scapegoat him in some of these situations. The Broncos never did. They stood behind him, and he eventually cleaned it up down the stretch for what it's worth. So hold on to your strengths is my opinion on this. You don't need to go out trying to trade. You got 7 picks in the draft. Make your picks.
You don't have to fix what isn't broken either, because the entire returning secondary is under contract for 2026. You get the band together for at least one more year, one more shot at a Super Bowl. Why would you undo that? Riley Moss is making pennies on his rookie contract. And Glenn, I don't want to single you out. Maybe I like Riley Moss a little more than you do, but this is a common refrain. Glenn says, if we traded Moss, I would hope we could get Sicario Davis in the 4th to replace him. So you're going to replace a guy who's been proven to be a pretty good cornerback too, and you're going to use a draft pick on a player that might be comparable to a Riley Moss. It's just, you already have him. Use that 4th round pick on a different position and then explore, like Chad said, during the season, whether you want to extend him or whether you want to let him walk and maybe collect a comp pick next offseason, by the way.
Yeah. And let's not forget, Riley Moss, despite his warts, was the highest targeted cornerback in the NFL last season. Not highest targeted number 2 corner. No. No cornerback was targeted more in 2025 in the NFL than Riley Moss, and yet he relinquished his completion percentage was in the bottom 10 in the best sense. So, yeah, in other words, guys, if quarterbacks testing Riley Moss, if they didn't get the yellow flag, they didn't get nothing out of it by and large. So Broncos love him. I like this from Scott, on the subject of Troy Franklin trade value. It only takes one dumbass GM to send a 4th round pick for Devon Vele. So that's a great example, Zach, of someone making the Broncos an offer they couldn't refuse. The value was too insanely obvious. Done deal. If something like that came in for Troy Franklin, I could see him making the deal. Jay says, if you can get that 3rd, go for it.
But even then, if you could trade Troy Franklin for a 4th round pick, unless you're planning to draft a receiver in round 2 to make room for him, like Franklin, like you mentioned, Chad, he had the touchdown lead. He was the wide receiver too. He might be a little, overweighted in that role, but he could still be a serviceable wide receiver 3 for you who has chemistry and a history with your franchise quarterback. So for a 4th rounder, I wouldn't do it. For a 3rd, I would, but there's no chance, there's no universe where the Broncos get a 3rd for Troy Franklin. Not this year.
All right, guys, we got a few messages for you, and then we're going to take one last look at the chat, so don't dip.
Another tremendous installment, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out MHHmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, drop us a like at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at Mile_High_Huddle. If you haven't done so, join the MHH Discord server. The link is in the description below. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, very important, as always, that you subscribe, you like, you share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Love it. Hey, a little run on some member comments here. Quentin says, I'd be shocked if Jacob Rodriguez fell to us. Pardon me, but it's not going to happen. I generally agree, but I love Rodriguez. Todd Ostendorf, Zach, I believe Mike Washington Jr. will be gone early in the second round, but if he fell to us, I'd pound the table for him. Jordan Lewis says, I'm excited. The schedule also comes out in a few weeks. Yep, that'll be fun to break down. We'll know when the bye is. We'll know how the away and home games are situated, and then we can announce the meet and greet this year. And then Ronk says, I heard the Buffalo Bills would take Rodriguez at pick 26. Cowboys are another team, Zach, that could be in on Jacob Rodriguez. You have the final word, and then I'll do our shout-outs.
I feel like it's a no-brainer for the Cowboys. He just kind of fits that program. He'd stay fairly local, and they need a defensive linchpin after losing Micah Parsons. I would, if I was Dallas and he was there, it would take me about 2 seconds to make that pick.
All right, guys, Mile High salute. A special shout out to all the great Super Chat superstars, supporters, and dear members helping us keep the lights on in what has been easily the driest offseason in recent Broncos history. Sam Bam, much love and respect, brother.
Thank you, Sam.
Papa Bear, we'll see you. We'll talk to you between now and then. We got 3 straight days of insane number of hours of live streaming. So, but Monday's going to be fun having you on. Shannon, thank you so much. If you would like to be a guest on the show for one of our superstar segments this offseason, just shoot me an email, milehighhuddle@gmail.com, and we'll get you on the schedule. Mondays are the preferred days for that, by the way. Tucson Phil, much love and respect. And same goes for you, Phil. If you would like to come on and do a segment, let us know. And then Zeus, the very first face that we etched. When we came up with the MHH Mount Rushmore, it was because of this guy. Been there from day one. Much love and respect, Zeus. Thank you. And don't forget, guys, tomorrow, I believe Trickle's planning on doing a members-only stream, draft day at noon tomorrow Mountain Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. But for everybody else, we'll be going live right before the draft kicks off tomorrow night, and we'll be live streaming throughout day 1, throughout day 2, and day 3. So come watch along with MHH. It's going to be a gas. Thank you, Q, jumping in late with a super chat. Dear member, thank you, brother. Saying great show. Looking forward to the draft. And also shout out to Q, Shiloh, David Yunkin, many others, Lady D, for all your great submissions for the Mile High mailbag yesterday. If you missed it, it was published. Go find it on the website. Much love and respect. Love you guys.
Have a great rest of your night, everyone. We will see you tomorrow for the start of the draft. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.